right, so let's make a slightly different desktop organizer. So it's going to look something like what we have here on the screen. So let's go on ahead and make a new project file. So we're going to do a new design. We're going to do part design here. So we'll create new. So we're going to just go on ahead and get going. So we're going to create a new sketch. I'm going to pick a plane that I want to draw in. So I'm just going to create in that red-blue plane. So let's create a sketch. We're going to go up to our create menu then. We're going to do a center rectangle. I'm going to make my rectangle to be about 150 in the vertical direction, 250 in the X direction, and about 150 in the Y direction on the screen here. And we'll finish this sketch. All right. So now I'm going to take that sketch and I'm going to extrude it. I'm going to extrude it to be about 5 millimeters, so it has a little bit of thickness to it. And we will click OK. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I am going to make my little drawers over here. And I'm going to have like a pencil holder over here, something for my USB-Cs, maybe something to put paper clips here, and a card holder over here. So relatively simple. So let's make my drawers over here that I want, or shelves. So before I do that, I'm going to want to create an offset plane over here so I can draw a sketch that's going to be vertical. So let's construct an offset plane, and I'm going to do it in this vertical plane here that is perpendicular to my surface. And I'm going to do it where it is about 75 millimeters or so. So it's kind of right on the edge, right, of this base. So I'm going to click OK. All right, so now I'm going to create a sketch. And what I'm going to create this sketch on is this new offset plane. So I'm going to click that plane. And so now when I draw my sketch, it's going to be on that plane that is just offset, which is on the edge of my base. So I am going to create a rectangle. I'm going to do a 2-point rectangle this time. Okay. So this time I'm going to have it where, oops, I want to move down a little bit here. I'm going to want my rectangle to be about 100 millimeters tall. So I'm going to start it a little bit above, because remember this was 5 millimeters here. So I'm going to sketch someplace up here, and I'm going to sketch down below. So 2-point rectangle. So let's start over here, and I'm going to sketch all the way down here. I'm going to go down to the bottom. So it's about 70 millimeters wide. Yeah, I think that's probably pretty reasonable. 100 millimeters tall. Perfect. All right. So I'm going to zoom in a bit because each one of these little squares is a millimeter. Okay. So I'm going to make my inside, which is going to be the thickness of my wall, to be about 3 millimeters thick if I want it. So I'm going to sketch it where I'm going to start, say, right here at this little corner right here, and I'm going to sketch all the way over. And now I'm going to zoom back out, and I'm going to sketch all the way down, and boom. Alright, oops, I need to go over one, so I'm going to move that over. So I want to move over, there we go. Oh no, that was right, I'm sorry. Yep, 1, 2, 3 centimeters. Yep, 1, 2, 3 millimeters, perfect. Alright, let me grab it here. So I've got 3 millimeters there. And let's see if I've got 3 millimeters. Let's make it 3 millimeters up here as well. So I'm going to grab this little guy and I'm going to bring him down. So 3 millimeters here. All right. So I've got it 3 millimeters all the way around. And now what I want to do is put in a shelf. Let's say I want to put my shelf right around this 50 millimeter mark. Okay, I'm going to do another 2-point circle line, and maybe I want to have my shelf to be maybe 4 millimeters. So I'm going to click on that inner line, and I'm going to drag it down where I've got 4 millimeters, and there's my line right there, and boom. So now I've got a 4 millimeter shelf in here. Let's zoom out. Alright, so I think I'm mostly done with my shelf. I'm going to do one thing here, because I don't like these little sharp corners here. Before I finish my sketch, I'm going to click and hold down the shift button, click each one of these. I'm going to put a little fillet on it, and instead of that much, I'm going to put maybe a 2, where it just gives me a little bit of a rounded edge there. Okay, and another rounded edge over there. Perfect. I'm going to keep these guys as rectangles and 90-degree corners just for the inside. All right. So now I think I'm good. Hit the escape button. Oh, whoops, I meant to hit enter, I'm sorry. Hit that, hit that. Oh, I'm holding the caps lock. Hit that shift. Let's fill it. Change it to 2. There we go. And hit enter. Okay, so now I've got my 2 radiuses. Perfect. Now I can finish my sketch. All right. So now I've got my sketch here. So now I can do this in many different ways. What I'm going to do first is, let's say I want to grab my outside and I want to grab my inner shelf, and I'm going to hold down the shift key. So now if I hit extrude, I can pull these guys out and I got a shelf. Okay. Notice when I did my radius, there's this nice little curvature all the way around, which is kind of nice. So now I've got a little shelf, and instead of join, I'm going to do a new body, because that way it allows me to move it around later if I want to. All right. All right. Now this is hollow, so I might not want that. So what I'm going to do is go over here to my browser. I've got my sketches are kind of hidden right now, so I'm going to undo my sketch. And notice I've got that sketch, that sketch. I can extrude those guys now. I'm going to bring them out as an extrusion of 3 millimeters. Okay. All right, so now I've got this extrusion of these 3 millimeters, right? And so one of the things that you want to double check when you extrude it, right, as the 3 millimeters, is double check that you've got either a join or a new body. Again, I kind of like doing things as new bodies, unless you've got a good reason for doing it as a join, because then when you go over here to the new bodies, you can move things around, right? What I can do, if I want it to say click and join this with this and these guys. So I've got body 2, body 3, body 4. Right, when I click them, it highlights them. So if I want it to have all of my shelving together, I can highlight them over here by clicking and holding down the shift key. Right, and then I can go up here, and if you see up here under, it's under the modify menu, I can click combine, and I've got them selected where the little combine window pops up, and it'll say target body, and that's going to be the one it's going to merge it to, and that's the first one I selected, tool bodies. And now I've got operation join, cut, intersect. I'm going to do join, and I'm going to say OK. And now notice I've got 2, and now my shelf is all 1. And that's probably what I want if I wanted to get rid of some of these bodies over here at single count. So now I've got 1 shelf, and now I can move this whole shelf as 1 body. You don't have to do that, but sometimes it's nice if you wanted to move your whole shelf. Then you wouldn't have to move the back panels separately, right? But you can always click on things over here and move them. All right, so now let's make our pencil holder. I'm going to go create another sketch. I'm going to click on the top of my panel over here, and I am going to create a center diameter circle. Let's put it somewhere in here. How big do we want it? Maybe about that big. Yeah, let's go with 75. And we'll hit enter. And yeah, let's go with somewhere right about here. Okay, I'm going to finish my sketch. Perfect. Now I can extrude that up. Let's make it about 80. Good deal. And then I can click on the top surface. I can go up here to shell. I'm going to make it 3 millimeters. I've got it all shelled up. Perfect. And you can leave it like that if you want to. I'm going to make it a little prettier. I'm going to create a tangent plane under the construct menu up here. And notice it puts a little tangent plane right there, and that's fine by me. If I do degrees, it's going to move it around at an angle, and you can actually drag it. See where it adjusts it on where I want to put it? So I'm just going to leave it where it is. I'm going to put it back to 0. All right, boom. And now I'm going to create a sketch on this tangent plane. Okay, let me move it again so I can have it in a center window, because I'm going to create a little slot here, and let's do a center to center slot is fine. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a center point, and let's do that. Actually, let's make it a little bigger. So let's create that slot again. Center to center slot, so maybe put it here and here, and let's see how that looks. Yeah. I'm going to make it a little bigger, so you can just Control Z. I'm going to do this one more time. Center to center slot, so let's put it up a little higher this time. Okay, perfect. Alright, yeah, this looks a little better. Okay, let's leave that. Okay, and here's why, is this is going to make like a nice little oval. So I'm going to finish my sketch, and what I'm going to do is now I'm going to extrude that slot. Okay, and I'm going to extrude it by just 2 millimeters. Okay, and I'm going to say okay. All right. And so what I'm now also going to do is I'm going to click on this side of it, and I'm going to click on this other side of it by holding down the Shift key. I'm just going to make it a little prettier. I'm going to go up here and I'm going to click on Fillet, and I'm going to add a little bit of curvature to it. Let's see how big a one I can get to it. Probably, yeah, one's probably it. Yeah, so let's add a 1 millimeter to it. Alright, so now I've got a little bit of a design to it. Okay, and what I'm going to want to do is, this is a new body here, right? Notice when I highlight it, I can make it go away. Okay, I'm going to hide all my sketches again. Okay, so now when I click it, it's there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a pattern, and I'm going to create a circular pattern. Now, one challenge when you create a pattern, you're going to need an axis to rotate it around. And right now my axis that I might have to select is over here. So I'm going to do something to create an axis around my cylinder. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to construct an axis. So it's just like you can a plane. Notice where I can make an axis through a cylinder. So I'm going to construct an axis through a cylinder. I just create my cylinder, and voila, I got an axis point. So I can use that to rotate around things. All right. And boom, perfect. So now I've got an axis. So now I am going to go create my pattern, a circular pattern. I'm going to select object type as bodies, objects. Sometimes if you find it hard to click the body, you can always just go over here to the browser and click it. My axis is going to be this guy in the center instead of trying to select that guy, because then it will do something funny sometimes. And now I'm going to pick how many quantities of these guys that I want to rotate around. Yeah, let's go with 20. All right, so now I've got kind of a cute little design on my pencil box. All right, I don't like sharp corners, so what I'm going to do is I'm also going to add a little fillet to the top. Since that was 3 millimeters, I can almost certainly do 2 millimeter chamfer to it. Perfect. I can get a nice little round curve up here, which makes it a little less harsh. Perfect. All right. All right. All right. So now I've got a pencil box to hold things. Okay. What I want to do next now is I'm going to add a place for my USB-C. I have a bunch of USB sticks that I want to hold them on. So I am going to create a little box to hold these blue eyes on. So let's create another sketch. I'm going to put it on my build plate here. Okay. So I'm going to put that one here. All right. So I'm going to create a 2-point rectangle again. So let's go to rectangle, 2-point rectangle, and we'll put it right about here, and we can move it if we don't like its location. So I'm going to put it right here, and I'm going to finish my sketch. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude this guy up. Let's say about, yeah, say 20. Right. All right, so now I've got my little block here. So now what we've got to do is to remember that in Fusion 360 you've got bodies, you've got faces, you've got sketches. So what I want to do is this guy has a face here on the top, right? So I am going to go move that face, okay? But what we can do is we can move that face. We can also rotate that face. So I'm clicked on my move tool up here in the menu. Okay. And I'm going to go notice that it's got object faces. And look, I can do bodies and sketches. So make sure you've got faces. I'm going to rotate it. Okay. And it's going to tell me what axis I want to rotate it around. And notice I can rotate it around different axes. You can draw a line again and rotate it around that axis. I could rotate it around this axis if I wanted to. It'd be kind of weird. But I'm going to rotate it around this one right here. Right? And I'm going to move it until I get to about 45 degrees. Okay? And I'm going to click OK. Right? And notice it pulled this up. So now I can sketch on this where I can put in my USB ports. So I'm going to rotate around here a little bit with my little free orbit tool. All right. So now let's create another sketch. So I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to click on my little face right there. So I'm now going to create a new sketch. And this time I'm going to do another 2-point circle. Okay. And I mean 2-point rectangle. And this time I'm going to create it right here. I don't want it too close to the top because since I'm going to do a USB stick, I want to have it to go in a little bit. So if I did it too close to the top, when I cut it out, it's going to cut through the top. So let's put it right about here. And a USB-A stick is going to be about 8 millimeters for a cut in to make sure that it goes in and holds. And they're about 12 millimeters by 5 millimeters in terms of height and width. And we're going to make them slightly bigger because when you 3D print something, it is going to be needs to be a little bigger because sometimes you get a little bit of thermal expansion, and the holes sometimes are a little smaller when you print them than you think they're going to be. So I'm going to add a little bit of extra allowance in here. So I'm going to click that little spot right there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my bottom to be about 12.15, so a little bit bigger. And my top is going to be about 5.15, so a little bit bigger than it needs to be to make sure that my USB stick in, but still big enough so that it's firm enough that it won't just fall out. And I'm going to hit enter. Okay. And now I can finish my sketch. And now I'm going to zoom in on that, and I'm going to extrude it. And I am going to then do a -8. Okay, really it's about -9 or 10, so you could go all the way to like -9 or 10 if you wanted to. All right, so -9 if you wanted to would be fine, as long as it doesn't end up coming through the back, and it looks like you're pretty good on that. I'm actually going to leave it at -8 because notice it is getting pretty close back there. 3D prints don't like to have really super thin things, so now I've got a little bit more of allowance there. So I'm going to go with -8 for this one, and I'm going to click OK. All right, so now I've got a little hole right there. And what I want is I want a whole bank of these. So I could draw that many times if I wanted to. I don't want to do that. And so what I want to be able to do is I'm going to create, this time I'm going to create a rectangular pattern. Okay. And I'm going to features. Okay. And I want to click my hole that I just made. Notice it's selected. Axes, I want to draw it along. I can click any line that is parallel to this guide, or the direction that I want to move. So I can click this top line here, this bottom line here. So I'll just click this bottom line. And spacing, I'm going to go to the, let's go to the extent of this spacing. And we'll see what we draw out. And I'm going to do, let's see, let's drag this line here. And that's going to get me pretty equal spacing. All right. And notice that if I did equal spacing here, right, it spaces them out, right? So I'm going to do the extent, right? So that's as far as I draw, right? Well, yeah, I think that might be pretty good. Oops. Yeah, I think that should be pretty good, and you can decide on how many you want. Maybe I want it to go a little bit further. Maybe, yeah, maybe -65. Yeah, let's go with that. Okay, so now I can click OK. All right, so now I've got a bank of these guys. I also want to have a little place for like paper clips, you know, other things, micro SD cards, something else in here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a sketch. I'm going to draw on this again. And what that's going to be is that's going to be a 2-point rectangle. I'm just going to create a hole right here. And I'm just going to have a hole that is going to go basically from end to end, but I'm going to have it line up over here. Okay, I think I want this line. Oh no, I want it to go over here. So I'm going to undo that. And I'm going to redraw it. So that's Control Z a bunch. I want it to go from here all the way over to here. Perfect. That's better. All right. And so then I'm going to finish my sketch. And then I am going to extrude it. And let's say I want it to go -10. All right. And that's a cut. Perfect. Excellent. All right. All right, so now I've got that in, and now let's add in card holder. All right, so I'm going to go over here. I'm going to create another sketch. I'm going to put it on my bin again. Okay, so this time a card holder is cards are about 90 millimeters by about 51 millimeters roughly. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do a 2-point rectangle. I'm going to make this one 95 long, and I'm going to make it 55 wide. Okay. Perfect. Okay. Yep, I think that's pretty good. And we're going to finish the sketch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to extrude that. I'm going to extrude it up by 10. Yeah, because I don't want it to be too long. I'm going to do a new body. All right, I'm going to click OK. Not super enamored with that placement, so let me go home here. I'm going to move it. I'm going to choose bodies, pick that guy. I'm going to translate move. Yeah, I think I'm going to move it there. It's totally fine. All right, and since I made it 95 by 55, cards are 90 by 51 roughly. I'm going to shell this. I'm going to shell it by, have a 3, and that will still give me a little bit of gap in here because that will be maybe I'll make it by a 2. Right, so that would be 91. Right, cards are technically 89 by 50. Yep, so that should give me plenty of space. Perfect, so that should give me plenty of room for my cards. Right. If I'm nervous about something, I can inspect it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a measurement. So the distance between section 1 and so from distance between 1 and 2 is 91 millimeters. That is perfect. That's what I thought it would be. I mean 51 millimeters. Perfect. All right. And then if I inspect it again, here to here, distance is 91 millimeters. Excellent. All right, so my cards will perfectly fit in there, and they'll be nice and snug, which is what I want. All right, just in case if I screwed up my math, I've checked my math, and that's just a little ruler tool up there. And now what I want to do is I want to have a little hole here so I can easily reach my cards. And I am going to create another sketch. I'm going to draw on this wall. And I am going to create another 2-point rectangle. And I'm just going to make a, oops, I cut my rectangle too short. So I accidentally clicked too soon. 2-point rectangle. There we go. I'm going to finish that sketch. All right, and I'm going to show you one other tool which is kind of nifty. I've got my sketch right here. I am going to extrude this guy. I'm going to make sure he's a cut. And instead of the extent type as distance, when I extrude it this way, I don't want to cut into my card base. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go cut to object. And I'm just going to have it cut to the other side. And notice it stops the cut to the other face. And I click OK. And notice I get a nice clean cut right there. All right, so now I can pick up my cards. All right, and if I wanted to take this down, I could go extrude, and I can take this face down a little bit. Boom. Right, and now it's flat. All right, so now I've got a nice space for my cards that is against my base. All right. All right. Now, let's do some rounding of things to make it look a little bit prettier and nicer. Okay. And we got a little space here so we could add other things if we wanted to and things like that. Okay. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to hit my my fingers here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click that side. I am going to click that side right there. And I'm going to add a fillet. Since that was 2 millimeters thick, 1 millimeter will do the trick. Boom. All right, I added a little round edge there. That's going to help with that. What I'm going to do here on my shelves is I'm going to click on these little corners up here that's underneath the shelf. I am going to end up going up to the modify menu. I'm going to add a chamfer to those. That's going to actually help add a little bit of strength to those little shelves up there. I'm going to see if I can put a 2mm chamfer there. See where it puts a little angle underneath of there? That's going to help with the 3D print. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing with the top of the shelf. I'm going to go escape out of that so I can get to my little cursor again. I'm going to put a little chamfer on those guys as well. Let's put a 2mm chamfer on those. Again, get that little angle there that just adds a little bit of strength to them. Perfect. All right. I'm going to put a little rounded chamfer on the sides. I'm just going to do it on the 3 sides, a little fillet. Alright, so let's add maybe a 2. Let's see if that will do it. See how that looks. Yeah, I think that does it well. And then I might put something here on this corner. And let's move it over here. Hit escape to get out of that. Let's rotate around here. I might put another one. Again, hold down the shift key. I'm going to click this corner here, and I'm going to add another fillet to that corner. And maybe a 1. All right, just to add, soften that edge a little bit. Okay. Alright, now if I wanted to, I could maybe, round the front of my shelving off if I wanted to. Put a little bit of a, and I could test out different ones. Yeah, kind of like rolling ball. Yeah, so I can make that look a little better. Things like that. If I wanted to soften this guy up a little bit, just so I don't hit my fingers on the edges. 3D prints can be quite sharp on the corners. Alright, so I just rounded that guy off a little bit. Oh, I missed that corner right there. So let's fillet that guy up. Alright, so now I think we have a pretty decent desktop organizer. Alright, so other things I could do is I could add my name to the top up here if I wanted to, right? And just as a reminder on how to do that, I can click on this top and I can go create sketch, and then I will create text. I go in here and I put where I want my text to appear, and I can add Mike's. And to get an apostrophe, you have to do the backslash to get the apostrophe. S, Mike's desk. Alright, I'm going to center everything there. Maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Alright, so I'm going to click OK. That looks pretty good. Alright. And then I can go up to create. Oh, I gotta finish my sketch. Finish it. Now I can go to create. I can emboss this. My face I want to emboss it on is that. And maybe, let's see. Yeah, I think I want to center it a little bit, so I'm going to move it over a little. Maybe I want to move it down just a little bit. Yeah, and I think that looks pretty good. Then I choose the height. 2 millimeters is fine. I'll click OK. All right, so now I've got my desk. You could put that anywhere. You could put it on the side of this if you wanted to. You could put it in there if you wanted to. All right, but that is kind of how you make a desktop organizer. All right, which is pretty cool. And then when you're done, what you'll do is you'll hit save, and you'll save it, and it'll save it to your file. So I'm going to say Mike's Desk version 1. It'll get saved. And then we can go up to File, we can export it. And then what we're going to do is you can export it either as an STL file. You can also export it as an OBJ file. Probably for our purposes, we'll do STL file. And oops, and then you will just export it, and that's what you are going to send to your Bamboo Studio for printing.